Hey, it's Benjie Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Gerald McIsaac. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, Occupy Movement and the Dictatorship of the Proletariat. Available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. But if you guys want to get everything that Gerald has to offer, do yourself a favor and head directly through his personal sites. Now, there's two of them I'm going to list for you. The first one is geraldmcisaac.club, and the next one is geraldmcisaac.com. There, not only will you find more information on Gerald himself, but you'll find more information on all of the other books that he's written as well. Now, Gerald has put in quite the amount of work, okay? Now, again, today is all about Occupy Movement and the Dictatorship of the Proletariat. But when you go to his personal sites, you're also going to come across Second American Revolution, 2nd edition, Bird from Hell, 4th edition, Political and Scientific Article, 3 editions, and the Dictatorship of the Proletariat and Revolution. So one more time, that's geraldmcisaac.club and geraldmcisaac.com. And I will say, Gerald was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business, Parchment Global Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself a favor and contact Parchment. You can find out more information on them at parchmentglobalpublishing.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Gerald here on the line. Okay, for those of you listening in right now, you may remember Gerald was on our network previously. Now, last time we had him here, we were discussing his fantastic book, Bird from Hell. And we got such great feedback on that interview, and it was such a wonderful time. We had to invite Gerald back on again. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Gerald, first and foremost, welcome back to People of Distinction, and thank you so much again for being a guest. How are you, man?
Oh, thank you, Benjie. I'm just fine. Happy to be here.
Now, Gerald, I know we have so much information to cover, so let's go right in. First and foremost, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, the fact is that the working class, the common people, are in motion, revolutionary motion, but they are just quite not aware of what they are doing. And it started, I'd say, 10 years ago with the Occupy movement, when people stood up, and at that time they distinguished themselves. They called themselves the 99% against the 1%. Since then, people have come to realize that they are working class and that the 1%, that the monopoly capitalists, when I refer to capitalists, I'm referring to the billionaires, not the small business owner. The monopoly capitalist billionaires, they're technically called the bourgeoisie, and they are in charge, and they are making nothing but money. The stock market is soaring. They're making ever more billions. And most of us common people, working people, I will say those of us who work by the hour, hourly employees are what we call working class, called proletariat. And and then there's the middle class people, small business owners. They're all called the petty bourgeois. Those are the scientific terms which we all have to learn. And now that the working class is really in motion, the super rich, the billionaires, those who own the biggest banks and corporations, they have declared that they are too big to fail, which means that the rest of us, common people, little guys, are too small to succeed. So we are going broke left, right, and center, bankruptcy, losing our houses, our jobs, life savings. Some of us are homeless, and the more that we are impoverished, being degraded, forced to rely upon food banks, and that is degrading. And the food banks are running out of food, so now children are being sent to school hungry. People are fed up. This has got to stop. The more we are impoverished, the richer are the billionaires, the capitalists. And people have but now people are in motion. They've got to be made aware of the fact that they are the members of a class, a proletariat, that the capitalists, the bourgeoisie, are a different class. What's good for the capitalists is absolutely the worst for us. The capitalists got to be overthrown, which requires a revolution. The existing state apparatus, which has been set up to crush us, the proletariat, has got to be smashed, and it has to be replaced with another state apparatus, another democratic state apparatus set up to crush the billionaires, as otherwise the billionaires will return to power. That's what happened in the Soviet Union and in China. At one time they were socialist countries, and the capitalists had returned to power. Now it's important for working people to be made aware that our current system of democracy is just that. It is democratic. And yet, but then they teach us in school that democracy is majority rule. It is not. Democracy is a method of class rule. And this democratic republic is a democracy for the billionaires. They are in charge. So what we need to have as a new form of democracy, democracy for the working people, the proletariat, but a dictatorship over the capitalists, which is the reason it is called a dictatorship of the proletariat. They had that in the Soviet Union for a while and in China, but they did not. The capitalists, the billionaires, were not crushed with sufficient enthusiasm, so they managed in both cases to return to power. They are not to be underestimated. So the revolution could break out, full-scale revolt any day, and we had best be prepared. That's the reason I wrote this book, to prepare the working class, and the middle class to a certain extent is joining in, because the middle class is being destroyed by the monopolies, or being small business owners are being crushed left, right, and center, driven into bankruptcy, and the owners are joining the middle class. What choice do they have? Their business, they no longer have any business. And those who are on by salary, a good many of them too are just being cast aside. They too are being ruined, forced to become working people. So that's the reason I've written my book, to let people know, raise the level of awareness of the working class, that the revolution is about to take place, and it could happen any day, as the ruling class is the capitalists are not sure any longer how to rule. There's talk of forming some more political parties, and they're serious about it. They're at their wits' end. That's an indication that the revolution is set to explode. So we had best be prepared, and it could break out any day.
Mm-hmm.
What I am suggesting for now is that working people and middle-class people become involved. I'm suggesting that everybody join the two political parties, Republican and Democratic, as card-carrying members, not registered members, but as card-carrying members. The reason is it is the card-carrying members that determine the candidate for each and every political office. And the only thing you have to do is apply to be 18 years old, an American citizen, apply for membership, become a card-carrying member, as many as possible, friends, relatives, and then as members, you can get together and decide among yourselves the person to run for each and every political office. Bear in mind, next year there will be a vote for each and every member of the House and 1/3 of the Senate. That's just a start. And such people can put forward their own candidates to run, say, for these offices, to support the progressive people in Washington, support the members of the squad. The so-called moderates, they're not moderate, they are reactionaries. Tell them they cannot run as members of Republican or Democratic Party, put forward their own candidates to run for those offices, support the members of the progressives, support Bernie Sanders and others who are the independents, flood Washington with progressive people. And watch what kind of response we get from the capitalists. They are in charge. They fully intend to remain in charge. So what I am saying is take them at their word. The capitalists say that the people running the country, if we do not like the way things are, we should change the system from within. So I'm suggesting we take them at their word, that we all Americans, 18 and older, join the two parties, political parties, both Democrat and Republican, as card-carrying members, because it's the card-carrying members that determine the candidate for each and every office. So the people who become card-carrying members can vote for one of their own to run for office, run against the so-called moderates, and support the progressives and the squad, because they are supporting the working class, flood Washington with working class people called leftists or progressives, and see what kind of response we get from the capitalists. The capitalists are in charge. They're determined to stay in charge, and we'll see what kind of response they get. Support Bernie Sanders, and especially Senator, he wants $6 trillion for investing in infrastructure and such. Back him up for that. Demand money for the working class. Support him. And also vote candidates for state and local office. Flood these capitals with leftist working class people. And change the system from within. Get active. Also suggesting more marches and demonstrations. Demand change. Support the progressives and the squad.
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, GeraldMcIsaac.club, as well as GeraldMcIsaac.com are the places you have to go. Occupy Movement and the Dictatorship of the Proletariat is the book you have to pick up. And Gerald McIsaac is the author you have to thank for bringing it to your table. You know, Gerald, as we start to wind down and close out, one question that I'm really curious about. You talk about how we as citizens need to be class conscious. Talk to us, really, what do you mean by that? What is meant by class consciousness, and why is it so important?
I'm talking about becoming aware that working class, those who work for wages, are what's called proletarians. All of us who work for wages, and most working class people are not aware of this, more so now than during the Occupy movement. But now the word is, most people think that those of us who make ends meet are working class, and the unemployed are middle class rather, and the unemployed are perhaps working class. No, those of us who work for a living for wages, are working class, whether we are unemployed or not. We are working class proletarians. We have our own class interests, which is absolutely diametrically opposed to the interests of the monopoly capitalists, the bourgeoisie. The harder they work us, the less they pay us, the more money they make. And now they are making ever more billions because we are being so ruined. I want to make that point. The middle class are those who have small businesses or perhaps are on salary, and they too are being ruined. They too are taking part in this revolutionary motion. They are our friends. It is the billionaires, the monopoly capitalists, the bourgeoisie that is the enemy.
Is there anything else that you haven't yet stated that you want to make sure that our listening audience is aware of?
Well, as I said in the book, one chapter of my book, 9/11 was not done by some guy in a cave half a world away. 9/11 was a result of domestic terrorists. The American government did that. Proof is, just look at the wreckage from the Pentagon. That was hit by a missile, not an aircraft. There's no wreckage from the aircraft, no bodies, no landing gear, no engines, no tail section. That is proof right there. Just to get a war going, the American capitalists committed an act of mass murder, thousands of civilians, just to get a war going. The war in Afghanistan, 20 years, finally ended at the cost of how many American personnel, military, and how many billions, and the capitalists made nothing but money off of that war. They go to that lengths to make money, butchery of their own people, among other things. That is the proof, if nothing else. And Tower 7, 49-story skyscraper, that was brought down by a professional job. Any demolition experts will tell you that was a professional job. No plane hit Tower 7. Few small scattered fires. If the sprinklers had been working, they would have put those fires out. The sprinklers were disabled. It was all carefully stage managed, and the people responsible have yet to be brought to justice, but they will be after the revolution. So to those who are responsible, I say, mark my words, you will be brought to justice. The working class, the proletariat, will see to that.
There you have it. You know what I love so much about all of this is we've discussed so much. There's been so many valuable pieces of information that have been discussed, yet we've barely scratched the surface. There's still so much more to be discovered. You know what you have to do. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, GeraldMcIsaac.club, and GeraldMcIsaac.com are the places you have to go. Occupy Movement and the Dictatorship of the Proletariat is the main title you have to pick up, but make sure you're checking in frequently and you pick up all of the other titles, because as I stated, Gerald has comprised a canon, okay? Second American Revolution, 2nd edition. Bird from Hell, 4th edition. Political and Scientific Article, 3 editions. And the Dictatorship of the Proletariat and Revolution. All of which are available through his sites as well as Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Gerald, this has been an absolute pleasure, just the same as the first one was. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benjie. My pleasure.